Go. Good morning, everybody coming into the room. Who have we got? Oh, Asim, hi. Annie Lane, Juliet. Does everyone, while they're coming in, because I just love this question so much, tell me where you're tuning in from. It was awesome to see people from all over the world yesterday. Yeah, tell me where you're coming in from. And while we're doing, oh, Sydney, hey, Juliet. Oh, Vancouver, awesome. San Francisco, hey, Melissa, you're back. Yeah, love this. People from all over the world. Amazing. So while people are filing into the room, I'm going to kick things off so we can get into Crystal's chat as soon as possible. So welcome to the second day of Liminal. I'm Sophia Witherington. I head up the fellowship program at StartMate. So Liminal is here to give you a snapshot into a career in startups, but also to give you a bit of a path on how to actually get in there. An interesting thing that we've added to Liminal as of today is we really want to help Liminal attendees to actually find a job. So we don't want this to be about coming to a week-long session of conferences. So we've actually created a Liminal job board. And so if you want to be considered for one of those jobs, there's a form that you can fill in which will send that directly to the employers and hope to make as many introductions for you as possible. That will be sent round afterwards. If you do love what you see this week, again, we'd just love for you to consider applying for the fellowship program. I mean, it's basically a 2-month program of Liminal that runs for 8 weeks. A couple of quick housekeeping things. Session will be recorded. Please do put your questions for Crystal into Slido, which I'm going to pop into the chat now, and we'll run from there. And as well, share your thoughts on Twitter, on LinkedIn. We love to hear what you've got to say. So format for today, we will hear from Crystal how Canva has been built into one of the best places to work in Australia and how you can look for and find your own great place to work too. Again, questions in Slido as we go, and we're going to finish up right on time for 9. So Crystal, you are the head of people at Canva, one of the top great places to work in Australia. You are originally from the US, you've worked across a ton of super interesting industries, and you moved to Australia, it was about this time last year?
Yeah.
So excited to have you here and have a better understanding of your background and also what it's really like at Canva. But just to set the scene a little bit, would love to hear a bit of a potted history of your career.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thank you for having me. I am always happy to come chat about my experience and what it's like working at Canva. So yeah, it's nice to virtually meet everyone. So yeah, I've had a bit of an interesting career journey. I would say it's not quite as linear as many folks that end up in the people or HR space. So I am currently the head of people at Canva, but I actually started my career in HR consulting, which is a bit of a unique background. Did some time doing IT consulting work and IT audit work, but really realized my passion was for people. And I think that was a defining point in my career where I really took that shift from technology to people. And I think that started by me becoming a people leader quite early in my career and understanding I really loved investing time and growing my team and being that people leadership part of the role. So that was one of the first kind of indicators of where my true calling and passion was going to lie. And then lucky enough, I was working at the time for Deloitte, which is obviously a huge multinational company that has lots of internal career mobility options. So I was very vocal in kind of first identifying my passions, which was around people and leadership development and training, and looking for opportunities within Deloitte that I could venture into the talent space. So luckily I leveraged the Deloitte's internal mobility program and transferred to their talent team and never really have looked back. So then the rest of it has really been on the job learning and growing in the space, which I am a big proponent of. And that ultimately has led me to Canva. As you know, I've had a couple different stops along the way, a lot of different industries, a lot of different size companies, and very happy to be at Canva today as I was really looking for my next adventure to be something in the hypergrowth startup space, and Canva is definitely that.
Amazing. And just what an asset to the local ecosystem to have you here. Can you talk us through when you were looking at making that leap and ultimately being Canva, you know, moving to Australia? I don't know if you'd actually ever been here before, but moving to a new country, can you walk us through like what made you decide Canva? What were the kind of key kickers in that decision-making process?
Yeah, I think for me, you know, Canva itself, like I've been very clear in trying to determine, what it is I want in a role and what I need out of a company and what I was looking for. I think that's, absolutely the first step is to be very clear on what your strengths are, what your values are, because making sure you're aligned from a values perspective to whatever organization, and kind of having your list of must-haves and priorities, your non-negotiables for a company. So I think the first step in my kind of that led me to Canva was becoming very clear on what I personally need and want out of a career where I will thrive, and the things that are important to me. And so luckily, Canva was sort of the perfect match for me in terms of, they're very clear in what they want in terms of values and what matters most culturally. And obviously they're on a hyper growth trajectory and doing phenomenal things in the design space. So it was a perfect match, luckily for me, in terms of, value alignments, cultural alignment. And then for me, being able to relocate to Australia was just sort of a cherry on the top. Australia is a beautiful country and would never been. So the first time I actually stepped foot into Australia was when I interviewed with Canva, but immediately fell in love. And my husband and I, on a personal note, met living abroad and had always said once we had kids, which we now have 2 young ones, we wanted the opportunity for them to live abroad as well. So it was sort of, the perfect combination of the role was perfect, very excited, and Canva was a really great fit from a values and cultural perspective. So no looking back now, we've been here exactly a year.
Amazing. And how do we better position Australia as ultimately this incredible tech hub that people from overseas want to come to? I mean, I'm an expat myself, and I'm like, everybody should want to come here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And being here now, it's easy to say that. But I think, it's Australia hasn't quite made it on the map yet. Well, from the US perspective of kind of that technology hub, which being here and now being integrated into the tech, environment and ecosystem, I could definitely and confidently say it's an amazing place for startups. And I know Canva is just one of many very successful startups. A lot, especially, it being in the talent space, there's a great talent market here. Yes, it's smaller than most, than Europe or other, the US, for example. So I do think that is one of the constraints for getting tech companies to start up in Australia, is just due to the talent pool. But we luckily bring in a lot of expats from around the world as well. But yeah, I mean, I would be the biggest proponent of starting companies in Australia. Again, we're finding really great talent locally, and that, who wouldn't want to live here? Beaches are gorgeous, the weather is gorgeous, all the good things. So lots of wonderful people. So yeah, I'd highly recommend a startup in Australia.
It's so good. Just so going back to when you were looking at Canva in Australia, and you said, have your must-haves and your priorities. What kind of questions, taking it a little bit more tactically, what kind of questions should we be asking ourselves to understand, what are our priorities and how do we think about whether this company is a match for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the first thing is being really clear on what it is you love doing and why. So if you haven't done like a journaling exercise, or I call it like the love-loathe exercise, where you capture activities that you love and that give you energy and those that drain you, I'd say do that. It's a very tactical exercise that you capture that for at least a few weeks and really spot the trends. And I think that's a really eye-opening one to help you understand what are your strengths, what are those things that you enjoy doing and give you energy that might actually not be your strengths, but it really helps you get a really clear picture of what makes you tick, what motivates you. And then that's really clear and like, okay, this is at least the type of work I want to be doing. And that's sort of question number 1. I also think doing a personal values exercise can be really helpful to define the values that matter most to you and to make you really clear on what you want. There's lots of those you can literally find from Googling or searching on the internet, but I think that helps be clear. Like for me, a values alignment is kind of a non-negotiable. Like I really fundamentally want to be aligned to the company's values. Also, mission and purpose is really important to me. I've taken roles where maybe that wasn't so strong. And I realized through that experience that it really matters to me that the company I work for has a mission and purpose that speaks to me on a personal level. So I think doing some digging into what, motivates you from a mission and purpose perspective. And then, it's about what matters most. Is it your role? Is it your coach or manager? Is it the company? Is it all of the above? And like I said, I just make your list of non-negotiables and spend time getting really clear on that. And then do your research. Like I've spent a lot of time looking at companies before I joined them. I do as much due diligence. They do a lot of research on you in terms of looking at your resume and asking you to do challenges. give them that same amount of scrutiny to make sure it's a good fit. Because again, an interview goes both ways, right? So we want to really make sure that you want us. And I think that's important. And I think leverage your network. There's great social media tools out there. So go find connections, ask for introductions, referrals. Don't be afraid to ask for like an informal conversation with some of these companies just to really suss it out. Because I do think the more you know and can get a true sense of what that company is and how it matches to your list of non-negotiables and must-haves, the better fit for both it'll be.
Amazing. And I just wanted to just really summarize two of your points there. Is like super important. The energy and the draining thing. I think for so long we're always taught like, what are you good at? Like, what are your 3 great skills, and do that. But actually, imagine you could actually create a role where you're doing the things that you actually love and pay attention to. What are the things you're doing that you get totally lost in and flow, and like, how do you get to go and just do that? Like, imagine doing something that, yes, you're good at, but you also love doing too. And then secondly, like, interviews going both ways. Like, this is as much as it is their time as it is yours to get to know one another and really assess whether this is where you want to be.
Absolutely.
So wanting to just change gear a little bit, we'd love to hear, sorry, excuse me, about Canva's cultural journey. And so obviously huge growth and rapid pace. Can you shed a bit of light on that journey of how the culture has evolved from maybe not so much the earlier days, perhaps having not been there, but kind of what the different, I guess, stages have been that have led it to where it is today?
Yeah, I think the one thing that really stands out to me about Canva, and part of the reason that I actually wanted to join, was just that they, from day one, and I attribute this to the co-founders, Melanie, Cliff, and Cameron Adams, they have just done a fantastic job of upfront saying, this is what we want Canva to be. And they started Canva with a 2-step plan. It was like, build the most profitable company and do the best, or do the most good in the world. And that's been the foundation of the company since day one. And no, I wasn't there when they started, but what I've seen is that those guiding principles and that plan has like guided every decision. So then, they've developed the values, which honestly, Canva is one of the most value-driven companies that I've ever seen. So I think it's been the challenge with Canva is there's something so unique and special about the culture that started when they were very small, a 5-person startup to which now we're close to 1,400 people. So how do you scale that culture and keep the things that make, a culture so unique, like the values, the day-to-day experiences, the same way it felt kind of when there were 5 people as there are 1,500. And it'll never be the same, but we're constantly on this journey to how do you evolve and enhance the culture. And I think the number one thing I've seen Canva do really well, and that one of the reasons I'm most proud to work there, is because they are such a values-based company. So literally everything we do is very intentional of like, does it align to our values? Is it directly in support of one of our values? It's like we have these checklists of questions, and if it doesn't fit, then we don't do it. And I've never seen that such sort of intention and dedication to values as here. And then especially, what's top of mind right now for me is last year, given COVID and even, continuing this year, was Canva's response. And firsthand, I can say that they truly are a people first organization, which I think obviously coming in the people org, that's really important to me. And seeing how much we care and truly do put our people's needs first. I think that again is this underlying foundation of Canva's culture and what's helped them be so successful and successfully navigate the culture shifts that have had to happen as we grow. And we've been doubling in headcount year over year, so it is quite significant growth. So I mean, those are kind of top of the top 2, but I would say it's like we have to remind ourselves on a daily basis, never lose sight of those intentional things we want to be doing in our culture and bringing those values to life. And it's just an evolution of those. So what worked for 5 people, what do we have to work now for 1,500?
Can you tell us a little bit about the leadership management structure at Canva? So how do you scale that quickly without kind of baking in like more and more hierarchy? And I understand at a very light level that Canva has a less traditional way of kind of thinking about career hierarchy. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think what's most important at Canva is we always say it's about goals and impact over titles. So we're not like a title-driven company. We are trying to stay as flat as possible given the rapid growth. Because what we want is we want our best and brightest solving our biggest problems, period. So it doesn't matter that someone technically has a certain role or title. That's not what's important to us. And I think, again, that's one of those intentional culture decisions. But it is hard as you grow and scale, the thing is, you've got to make sure our team size stays small. And I think that's where we're focusing, because all of our work gets done in teams. And so we're really constantly always looking and evolving and iterating on our team size and making sure we have great team structures that are working really well together and are really healthy. And that's where we invest our time and energy. And part of that is having a strong team lead in place, or coaches in that team that can, guide and support and help grow and develop that team. So again, we're really focused on just like health and well-being of teams, and supporting those coaches and team leads that are responsible for helping guide that work and making sure they're creating an environment where people can do their best work. So that's kind of where we've been focusing on, and not emphasizing the titles.
I love that. Yeah, it's really cool. Got a couple of questions coming in from the audience. Just want to jump to these. So I think this is going back to, you said around like use your network and kind of use that to kind of figure out where you want to end up. And so this person's saying, how can we initiate informal conversations with these companies? What does cold calling look like when done well?
When done well, yeah, because there's a lot of examples when not done well. But I think, obviously on LinkedIn, it shows you connection. So anytime you actually have a connection that you can leverage, someone that that works in the organization, that's kind of the safest way in, I think, and a nice connection. It's hard because a lot of folks in organizations are so busy, they can't, and I'm thinking of myself when I say this, can't respond to every single LinkedIn message that you get. But it is, I think, obviously spending your time doing some due diligence ahead of the reach out too, like looking at your Glassdoor reviews. You can get a lot of insight from just the social media reviews and things that are out there. So Glassdoor, LinkedIn and other spots like that. But I would say when I am able, or like the ones that catch my eye from a personal point of view would be the ones that are just like personal and customized, that reach out, not just saying, I have all these questions, can you give me your time? It's like, I'm invested in Canva, I've done my research. Here's the one question I'm most curious about, and like shows initiative to really understand the company, the culture, or my role, before just kind of reaching out cold. I think the worst thing you can do is kind of just reach out saying, hi, I'd like to know more, and not be like very specific in why Canva, or why that organization, or why are you reaching out to that one particular individual. So the more personalized and custom you can make it, I think the better chances of a response would be.
Yeah, for sure. The more specific, the better. Yeah, for sure. So another one, everyone's writing their questions with anonymous. I'd love to shout out people's names. So another great one here. Is it possible to pivot in your career, for example, consulting to product management, without having to take a huge step back? Does the notion attitude over skill hold true?
Ooh, it's a good one. I sometimes say grit over grades, like coming into an organization. But yeah, I think it's never too late to pivot. And ideally, you don't have to take a step down. It can be a lateral type move. But I think what you need to focus on when you make a big pivot that's sort of maybe outside of the current function or scope that you're currently in, is really be clear on those transferable skills. So like do enough research on that new role to understand what makes a product manager in that example super successful. And then I'm sure you have a ton of transferable skills like project management, good communication skills, like the soft skills that could really propel you into that role. Because I'm a proponent of a lot of the technical skills you might be able to learn. I mean, outside of engineering and some roles that require deep technical expertise. I don't want to take away from those, but there's a lot of other roles out there where a desire to learn, that grit and ambition and attitude can get you a long ways, coupled with soft skills. So be really clear. I'd say take a good inventory of your transferable skills, technical and soft, and just make sure when you're interviewing or when you put your resume up or put your application in for a role, that you're very clear on how you think some of the transferable skills that may not be so obvious to maybe the recruiter or something would place you well in that new role.
And again, linking it into what are those things that give you energy, right? So an example I gave is, a lawyer wanting to get out of law and into startups, right? That doesn't mean you need to be an in-house lawyer. If the things you love doing are stakeholder management, meeting with clients, well, that's what you love, and as a transferable skill could be that you move into like a business development role. And so actually like breaking it down a little bit and thinking about that transferability.
Yeah, and like actually, for my specific example of taking the leap from IT consulting and auditing into talent was there was an opportunity in the talent organization at Deloitte for a sort of a project manager, which I was very technically skilled at in my other, role. So it was really becoming clear, like showing my value I could add. Yes, I don't know the talent space all that well. I'm eager to learn. This is where my passion is. To your point, here's why. Like, I love leading people. I love learning and development. I've done all this training. Like, this is my passion, but I have this skill set here. So let's like merge the two, and then I'm going to grow and develop in this role. And, hopefully I can be a good test case of when that works. So I'm a big proponent of going after what you're interested in.
For sure. Life's too short. What type of working environment does Canva create to help people do their best work?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. So one, we do have that people first orientation. So we always are trying to do, and don't get it right 100% of the time. No organization's perfect, and Canva isn't either, but we do our best, and we always try to put people first, especially in the people team, that I come out of. We're in people operations, where we literally touch every single point of an employee's journey with Canva, from hiring through onboarding, through their development and performance and retention and all that. And so we just really focus on creating peak moments throughout that journey is one thing we're really spending a lot of time on, because we recognize that, like, again, we have an opportunity to influence your day-to-day. So I think it's a combination of the culture, led by our values and how intentional we are. Some of the things I really love is, one of our values is be a good human. Obviously, we're very, very keen to like move the needle in diversity and representation. I think a foundation of a good work environment where everyone can thrive is that psychological safety and trust, that people feel like they can come to work and be their authentic, true self. And I hope that people at Canva would really be able to feel that. And I think that they do. And I think that to me is like of utmost importance and sort of the foundation for a thriving workplace. Also doubling down on well-being, like really focusing on, there's no longer that separation literally, because we all work from home, between work and the rest of life. So like figuring out what that means for our employees and how those lines start to blur. So we've started, being more flexible in hours that people work, and where and how and when they work, and providing them with lots of opportunities to take care of themselves from a well-being perspective. Just some things like that I think are really core to making Canva a great place to thrive. And we do a lot around connection. Sorry, I thought one more thing. The sense of belonging, connection is really important. We have lots of clubs that people join to, and there, I mean, literally we have hundreds, and they're as diverse from wine club, which I'm a member of, to like, tennis and magic club and meditation club. So we're always trying to find ways to connect folks that can support one another with like-minded individuals. Those are just a couple examples.
Love it. I'm going to try to squeeze in 2 more questions.
All right.
So one from Ash. What differences do you find culturally working with Aussies, and what would you recommend for Aussies to build virtual relationships with their US team members?
Well, that's funny. So what I can tell you is what the perception of me was when I joined, coming from the US. I was told, I was a bit direct, I think. And they're like, I remember one of the very first presentations I gave at Canva, they're like, oh, we love a good American, just straight to the point and direct. And I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, okay, what does that mean in the context of Canva, as well as then the context of being in Australia? I will say there's, although we speak the same language, I will say there is some nuanced slang and vocabulary that takes a minute to catch a hold of, like on both sides. But I think it's really less about, in my mind, Australia versus US, and it's really about the company that you go into. Canva has a very conversational, casual tone, make complex things simple is a value of ours. So they don't want long rambling emails, short, concise. So I think it's more about, really understanding the style and communication preferences of, the folks you're working with either way. Because in the US, you can see the same thing where it's more casual. So yeah, less about the country, I think more about the company.
Got it. I want to make sure that people come away with to finish up with some really clear actionable next steps. And so we spent a good bit of time talking about transferable skills. And for a big chunk of the audience here today, they're thinking, I want to make that career change and go from law or consulting and do something totally different. And so this question from Anonymous again, when you say make the transferable skills clear on the resume, what does that actually look like?
I think it is what I would start doing is looking at documenting the skills that you use, or that, that are your strengths, that give you energy, that you're, good at, that you've gotten feedback on, or that are a critical part of your role today, and make sure you have those documented really clearly. And then go do kind of whatever analysis you can of understanding the role that you're wanting to move into and what like success in that role looks like. So that would be an opportunity, if it's not super clear in the JD, to use your network and try to understand, talk to people that's in that role and ask, what does success look like in this role? What are the key skills, behaviors, technical expertise that are required to be successful? And then see what sort of mapping you can do between, okay, here's what I have and here's where I might be missing. And then what even would show an employer, from my perspective, like initiative would be like, oh, I realized that I needed, X skill. So I went and took this external course or program, or invested in my learning, or read some books, or whatever it was to close the gap. Because I think that's one of the things that's most valued in organizations today, is showing a growth mindset and learning agility. And so if those are two things too that you can show you value and are part of your DNA, I think that gives you a leg up in and of itself as well.
Love that. Love that. The last thing that I want to ask is, what is one piece of career advice that was shared with you that's really resonated and stayed with you for a long time?
Oh, I've had a lot, because that's the one thing, like I'm a proponent of leveraging mentors and your network and coaches. I am who I am today and where I'm at due to lots of people and lots of people's support. So I would say, like, yeah, I guess in saying that, one of my pieces of advice would be, find someone, get your support network. I'm a big Marcus Buckingham and Strength Finders fan, or whatever. He talks about your board of directors, like getting that support system really clear of who's there to like help you. And, that includes my husband and my kids, and it includes previous bosses and coaches and mentors or whatever. So I'd say, like, get a really solid foundation of a board of directors, so to speak. But then also, I think the more clear you can be on what you really want and what you enjoy doing, because again, life is too short. We spend so much time at work. Make sure you enjoy it. So the more you can invest in yourself and be clear on what makes you happy and you personally thrive, that'll be your best pieces. Follow your gut. Like, I was really nervous to make a transition outside of technology into HR for lots of reasons, but it's the best thing I did for myself and for my family.
I'll look back. Thank you so much, Crystal. Really great actionable advice and takeaways. Really been great having you here at Liminal. So fellowship applications are open. If you are thinking about taking that leap, and really what the program's about is helping you figure out what those transferable skills are, and really helping you to find out what that dream role is. So if you've liked what you've heard today, definitely consider applying for the fellowship. Liminal's back on tomorrow from 8 a.m. And every day for the rest of this week. So hope to see you tomorrow. Crystal, thanks so much, and for coming, and everyone for joining us this morning. Really great session, and
Thanks,
see
everyone.
you all tomorrow.
All
See
right,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye.